Hi, my name's Heath with Heath Riles Barbecue. Today I'm going to show you how we cook our baby back ribs. Now, I cook this for my backyard and competition. I have a few different versions of it depending on where I'm cooking at in the country. Now we're going to start with these Heritage Farms Cheshire ribs, and you can see they already come with the membrane skinned off the back. So you always want to make sure, if it's not, you get you a knife or paper towel and pull that off. Now really the only thing I'm going to do, it's real thin on one end down here, so always cut off one single side of that where the meat comes up, and I come down here on the fat end. If it's any fat, I want to make sure that rib is even, and it kind of tears up down here, jumps up, so I always want to make sure I trim some of that off. Now I'm not taking very much. These baby backs can take the heat. Now I just want to keep trimming, and usually I cut one bone off of each end depending on how it feels, and it's kind of hard unless you turn the rib over and see where the bone's at, where you can follow it. And so when you do that, you can cut straight down, no problem. So I want to flip this side over, and I want to do the same thing. Now after I get these bones cut down like that, I'm going to come back, and you can see it's a trick because some of these ends of these baby backs have just a double bone on one end. So it's a trick when you turn them over to get in between the bones like that. So now that I have them cut off, I want to come back and make sure there's not any bone fragments like that right there on there. Gonna make sure you get that off, and you know, always trim a little bit of that heavy meat off of one side. That one looks good, and this one looks good. Now, I would say that we're ready to season. We use a binder, and believe it or not, I use mustard. I'm gonna take all my ribs, I'm gonna lay them out. Now, you wanna rub this mustard in lightly. You're just looking for something to tack the rub up on the ribs is all you're looking for. Now, I'm gonna start out with a small coat of my everyday rub, which is my salt, pepper, garlic, kind of my AP all-purpose rub. Now I'm gonna come back with a little heat. I'm gonna use my honey chipotle rub. Now this is your typical honey rub, and it's got a little bit of chipotle in it for a little bit of heat and carry over, but it finishes off really smooth. Then I'm gonna come out with my pecan rub. This is one of my favorite rubs I've developed. It's got a real nuttiness to it, but we don't use any nuts in it whatsoever. So it's completely allergen free. It's just a flavoring that we use. And then I'm going to come back with some of my peach rub. And what we're doing, we're just building layers of flavor. Now, I'm going to let that set for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to come back just till it breaks a sweat. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do the same thing on the front. Now today I'm cooking baby back ribs instead of St. Louis style ribs. Predominantly around the Memphis area, when we cook contests, we cook baby back ribs in a Memphis style contest. In a Kansas City style contest, we always cook St. Louis style ribs. But my preference is actually baby back ribs when I'm cooking on the grill, because it's got some loin meat on it, it's got some fat in it. It's just the way we like it. It comes from the upper part of the hog up on near the backbone, where the St. Louis ribs come down on the rib cage. So remember, I'm going to start with this AP rub of mine, the everyday rub. I'm going to season it really well, and then I'm going to come back with a little bit of heat, my honey chipotle. I'm going to come back with my pecan rub, and I'm going to come back with some peach rub. On these layers of flavor, you're going to taste savory, you're going to taste sweet, and you're going to taste a little bit of heat, and that's what we want, because it all complements well and wakes up the taste buds in your mouth. Now we're going to let them set here for about 20 minutes. When we get the pit ready, we're going to put them on at 275 degrees. We'll be right back. We're going to cook these ribs today on my Outlaw offset pit. It's a stick burner. We're going to be running between 275 to 300 degrees. It'll settle in somewhere up in that range is what we're going to be doing. Now, we're cooking with pecan wood today and a bed of royal oak charcoal. Now I always want to squash the ribs up just a little bit. That way it makes a little more meat in between the bones. They look really good. All right, our pit's been running between 275 and 300 degrees for almost 2 hours. We spritz with apple juice about every 45 minutes. And we're going to temp the ribs now. We're at the 2-hour mark to see if they're ready to wrap. I want them to be about 160 degrees. And I'm hitting 159, 160, 158, 159, 162, 163. So we're going to get them on a pan, get them ready to wrap. All right, I just pulled these ribs off, and now we're finna go back here and wrap them in a butter bath. All right, now that we're back here at the cutting board and we got the ribs off the pit, we took my butter bath and wrap, which is a product made up of dehydrated butter, granulated sugar, granulated honey, and some spices, and I reconstituted it in apple juice Tells the instructions on the bag, and then I'm ready to pour about 3/4 of a cup on each slab once I get it in the foil. The first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna lay down a layer, a bit of this honey chipotle rub. I'm gonna lay a rib in it face down, and I'm gonna put a little more honey chipotle on the back. Now I'm gonna take my butter bath and just pour about 3/4 of a cup on the foil. Now you gotta be quick to make sure it don't run off. You gotta drain, you gotta plug. But what we wanna do is, we wanna take our foil. I like to turn mine down about twice and then fold it up. That way no liquid comes out of it. Now, I'm going to repeat the process on every slab. We'll be ready to go back on the pit. All right, now we're going to get the ribs back on the pit. We're going to let them run about an hour before we check them. We're looking for an internal temp of about 203 to 207 degrees. All right, we're about ready to take the ribs off. They're hitting the temp they need to hit. Now, sometimes if I'm only doing a few slabs like this at home, I'll poke straight through the foil. My thermopin's hitting about 204, 205. That's where I want these ribs at. So I know that I've checked all of them are done. I'm gonna take them off and I'm gonna let them rest now. Now that we've had the ribs off the pit and we let them rest for about 30 minutes, we're ready for some sauce. I've took both my sauces and mixed them 1 part vinegar to 2 parts sweet sauce in my Yeti canister and shook it up to mix it up very well. Now we're gonna get these ribs glazed up and get them back on the pit to set the sauce. The simplest thing to do is open your rib up. You can see how the bones have drawn back very well. Now what I like to do is take it once I open it up, hold it up, and I'm going to pour the liquid out in my garbage can. That kind of drains the liquid off, and now you can handle it. Make sure you get it real sauced up everywhere. And you want to turn it over and do the same thing to the front. And look at that beautiful color when it come out of that butter bath even before sauce. Now, what I like to do to get a little more color on the top and for a little extra taste, I like taking some peach rub and coming back with a little bit on top to melt in. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to transfer it over to this rack right here I've got them on. I'm going to finish up the other slabs and we'll get them back on the pit. Alright, now that we've got the ribs sauced and everything, we still got the pit running at 275. We want to get them back on there and get the sauce tacked up. Here we go. I use this big wire rack. It makes it easy to move in all 4 on and all 4 off at the same time. Really easy. Alright, now you can see it's starting to rain on us out here. Our ribs have been back on about 20 minutes. We think the sauce is good and set, tacked up. We're ready to get them off. Just to recap today, we took these Heritage Farms Cheshire ribs, basically cut a bone off of each end to trim them down, got them really even, seasoned them with our everyday rub, our honey chipotle, our pecan rub, and then our peach rub for some color. We put them on the Outlaw pit, cooked them at 275 to 300 for about 2 hours, then we wrapped them up, let them go for about an hour and a half is how long they've been on to get tender to 203 degrees, 204. Then we wrapped them in a combination of our sauces 2 to 1, 2 parts sweet, 1 part vinegar, dust it with a little more peach rub on top, put them back on the pit for 20 minutes to tack the glaze up. As you can see, I like using a cake spreader knife for cake icing. It makes lifting ribs really easy. You can pick them up and transfer them over to your cutting board. And as you can see, that rib right there, it has the perfect color. It's got the perfect bend to it. And what we like to do here in Memphis is pick it up, and if it's got a jiggle to it and a wave like that right there, we know that rib is perfect. I can turn it any which way you want me to, but guess what? I can still crack it right open, no problem. So that loin meat's perfect, got the perfect smoke, everything ready to go. I like taking and spreading a little bit of sauce out on my cutting board so the ribs don't stick to it. I take and I turn it face down. It's so hard to cut a baby back when it's not face down. I'm going to take my knife here, and you can see I'm going to go in between the bones and I'm going to cut. If I can stay away from the bones, they're cutting like butter. But some of these baby backs, when they're double cut in between the bones, it's kind of hard. Alright, now that we've got all the ribs cut and turned back over, you can see that they cut real beautiful. I'm going to dig me one right out of the very center here.
Oh, the juice from that butter bath that rib absorbed. It's a perfect bite. I think I probably got sauce all over me. If you'd like to see anything else, please go to our website, heathrilesbarbecue.com, if you'd like to order any of our products or anything. Remember, life is too short for ordinary barbecue.